Welcome to the Sex God Method. By purchasing this book, you've taken a huge step towards improving your sex life and relationships. The Sex God Method is a complete and comprehensive guide to sexual mastery. But, before reading it, there are a few things you should know. First, you are taking a risk of pregnancy and STDs every time you have sex. Although this risk can be minimized by safe sexual practices, it is always present. Second, you should always practice safe protected sex until you are sure that you can trust your partner. This book describes controversial sexual practices including forced sex and rape fantasies. They are advocated only in the context of being role-playing fantasies. Real rape is always a bad idea. Keep an open mind at all times when reading this book. It is called the Sex God Method for a reason. The ideas presented in this book are not a collection of nifty tricks and techniques, but rather a system intended to change you from a sexual dud to a sex god. If you're not prepared to have all your beliefs about sex challenged, stop right here. You must be over the age of 18 to read this book. As a competent adult, you must take full responsibility for the consequences of your sexual actions. If you wish to obtain the maximum benefit from this book, you must make a real commitment to learning its principles. This takes time. Sexual habits are deep set and are not changed overnight. Before you even begin reading this book, make a promise to yourself that you will apply the information in this book for improvement in the long term. Begin by reading the entire book once. Then, analyze your natural sexual strengths and weaknesses using the Sex God Method, Devi. Figure out what your biggest weakness is, and reread the section which covers your weakness. Concentrate on apply the information in that specific section until you have mastered it. Then, move on to your second biggest weakness, your third, etc. in the same fashion. Do this until you have achieved sexual mastery. Introduction to the second edition. Congratulations on making the decision to purchase this book. Because if you've been looking to have a secret edge in the bedroom which will give you the sex life that most guys only dream about, this could be the most important book you ever read. And here's why. If you're not good in bed, you know pretty well what a miserable experience sex can turn into. First of all, if you can't give women orgasms, they probably won't want to have sex with you. Believe me, I know. You might sleep with a girl once and have her leave you for a guy who's better in bed, or you might find yourself slowly getting less and less sex in your relationship, until finally it seems like you've forgotten what real sex is even like. Your masculine confidence is slowly sapped from you with each sexual failure, until eventually you feel totally powerless to turn a woman on. On the other hand though, if you become a great lover, your life will become better in ways it's tough to even imagine. You'll be able to have sex literally whenever you want, and it'll be amazing, mind-blowing, break-the-bed sex every single time. You'll feel like you finally have the power in your relationship. And because women inevitably talk to each other about their sexual experiences, you'll be able to attract any woman you want once word of your bedroom prowess gets around. In this book, I am going to show you exactly how to create this type of life for yourself. So the question you're probably asking yourself now is, Dan, how are you going to take me from having an average sex life to having the type of sex life most guys can only fantasize about in just one little book? Here's how I'm going to do it. In the first act of this book, I'm going to alert you to some common bedroom mistakes that almost all guys make. Most guys are totally clueless that they're doing many things to turn women off in the bedroom, because women almost never discuss these things openly with men. In the first act of this book though, I'll let you in on these secret turn-offs that women have so that you can steer clear of them. Just by doing this, you'll have a huge edge over almost every other guy. In the second act, I'm going to teach you my patented 4-step method for giving women orgasms. I've learned that everything that turns women on in the bedroom can be reduced to 4 core sexual desires, and that giving her orgasms is just a matter of satisfying those desires. Once you know what these desires are and the method for using them, giving women orgasms becomes easy. In the third act, I'm going to give you a powerful arsenal of physical and psychological techniques to blow any woman's mind in the bedroom. But be careful, once you've mastered these techniques, you'll literally have women becoming sexually addicted to you. And in the fourth and final act, I'm going to share 9 of women's most secret sexual fantasies with you. I'll also show you exactly how to use them to turn women on, and how you can act out any other fantasy in the bedroom that you might desire. But there is a catch. If you want me to truly change your sex life for the better through this book, I also have to ask for a commitment from you. Since I've written this book, I've spoken at large seminars, done sexual confidence boot camps all over the world, and have helped thousands of guys through this book. Although just about every guy improves his sex life just as the result of reading this book alone, there are some who make really phenomenal changes in their sex lives amazingly quickly as the result of reading it. So, what makes these guys different than the average guy? I've noticed that these guys usually don't have any more talent or natural ability than the average guy, but they all have one thing in common. And that is, They all steadily and consistently act on specific techniques and pieces of advice I give in this book. In other words, they say to themselves, the very next time I have sex, I am going to use that dirty talk technique. Then, the next time they have sex, even though they might be a little nervous to try something new, they actually do it. This way, their confidence in the material is increased because they can see how well women respond to them, and they progressively master one technique after another like clockwork. In a matter of a few months, a guy like this will be giving women orgasms almost effortlessly. This is the commitment that I'm asking you to make before reading this book. As you read this, look for techniques that you could try the very next time you have sex. Then, once you find one, commit to trying it out and acting on it. If you can do this, you'll have women raving about how you're the best they've ever had before you know it. My story. First, let me tell you my story. 5 years ago, I was a total nerd. My days consisted of attending classes and doing the bare minimum to get by in the real world, while playing StarCraft for 6 hours a day with a cursory meal or two mixed in. The only friends I had were the ones who shared my video gaming obsession. Needless to say, my only sexual outlet was internet porn. My life went on like this for a while, until eventually I got fed up with it. I got sick of seeing people having fun and living life in the real world, while I only counted the hours until I could get back to my computer. I decided to do something about it. I got in the gym and started training religiously. I got a better haircut, cleaned up my acne, and made my appearance 100% better. Girls were now showing interest in me, but I still didn't have the social skills to actually get laid. I found some basic resources on the internet which gave me advice on becoming more confident and improving your social skills. Armed with these, I started making a proactive effort to be social. Within 6 months I actually had a circle of friends. I started getting invited to parties and events, and even made out with a few girls. I lost my virginity a little while after that with a girl I met through my job. We had been talking on the phone 3 or 4 times a week for about a month, and we'd been on a few dates. One day, she invited me back to her place, and I knew this was it. I was finally going to lose my virginity. As the clothes came off, I found that I was so nervous that my hands were shaking. When the time came, something horrifying happened. I couldn't get an erection. All that work making myself more attractive, and when the time came to actually have sex, I couldn't get it up. It was humiliating. I tried in vain to get hard for the better part of the hour, before she finally stopped me. I never heard from her or saw her again. After that, I vowed that I would do whatever it took to become good in bed. Throughout the next few years, my life went through an enormous transformation. I found some like-minded men and started going out 3 or 4 times a week to pick up women. It was a lot of work, but it was worth it. I went from an average dude to someone who was extraordinarily successful with women. Within 3 months of meeting them, I had established a rotation of 3 girlfriends, all of whom knew that I wasn't exclusive to them. On top of that, I started getting regular hookups. Needless to say, with 3 girlfriends I really didn't have enough free time to do anything with them other than have sex with them. And with 3 girlfriends, that was a lot of sex. Soon, I was having sex more than anyone I knew. Instead of spending 8 hours a day playing StarCraft, I now spent 8 hours a day having sex, recovering, and going at it again. Let me tell you, it was, and is, much more satisfying. Every time I had sex, I learned something about the way female bodies worked, and the way my own body and mind worked. Every time, I became better. This was great for me, my girlfriends, for everyone really, except for my neighbors, who had to listen to girls screaming in my room night and day. Today, I am living a lifestyle that I would have considered a dream 5 years ago. I have a wonderful relationship with my primary girlfriend, and we are both deeply in love with each other. On top of this, I also have great relationships and great sex with my 2 other girls. It seems for me that sex has become better and better each time I have it. How did I get here? The 4 principles of sexuality. Let me go back to the original question. What makes this sex book different than all the other sex books out there? In my journey toward sexual mastery, I tried almost everything out there. I read a lot of books specifying exactly what angle and with what degree of pressure to rub the clitoris, how many inches to insert your fingers into the vagina, etc. While a basic knowledge of sexual technique did help me, the more complex techniques which promised mind-blowing results really didn't work. Far from making me seem like a sex god, they made me seem like a gynecologist, constantly prying and experimenting. After doing this for a while, I gave up all external sources of sexual knowledge and decided to learn bedroom skills on my own. When I had achieved sexual mastery, I noticed that there were a few underlying principles that defined everything which made me good in bed. These are the things that separate the beta male sexual wannabes from the true alpha male bedroom superstars. They are: psychological over physical stimulation. A common sexual problem with men is their obsession with the physical. Men frequently approach becoming good in bed with a problem-solving mentality, similar to learning how to play chess. They think of women like machines. Rub the machine in a certain way for a certain amount of time, and bam, it produces an orgasm. The reason why this mentality is incorrect is that it totally neglects the psychological aspect of sex. Although it is harder to see and understand than the physical, it is much more important. Let me explain why. Men spend billions of dollars every year on making themselves more attractive to the opposite sex. Whether it is on clothes, or on dates, or on seduction workshops, we each expend huge amounts of our time and money in order to make ourselves attractive for women. Yet, for about $50 you could buy a sex toy which replicates the feeling of a vagina almost exactly. So, why isn't sex obsolete? Why don't we just buy the toy, and consider this part of our life handled? The answer is because while sex toys can provide physical stimulation, they can't provide psychological stimulation. And, psychological stimulation is the most important aspect of sex. Mere physical stimulation is just getting off. Extraordinary psychological stimulation combined with basic physical stimulation is mind-blowing. Imagine the difference between masturbating and having sex with a beautiful woman. That is the difference that psychological stimulation makes. Although psychological stimulation is important for men, it is 10 times more important for women. Consider this: there are hundreds of different sex toys on the market. Women can buy vibrators, dildos, vibrating dildos, anything their hearts desire to give them absolutely perfect physical stimulation. In fact, many women do buy these toys to use for times they can't get sex. But, ask any woman and you will find out that these toys are a poor substitute for the real thing. Women don't fantasize about buying a dozen batteries for their rabbit on a Saturday night and vibrating the shit out of themselves. They fantasize about sex. It should be obvious that the key to becoming great in bed does not lie in ways to stimulate the body, it lies in ways to stimulate the mind. While physical technique has its place, what will really drive a woman crazy is knowing how to arouse her on all the psychologically. Combine this arousal with basic physical technique, and you have a recipe for great sex. The importance of dominance. This is something that you will find no mention of in mainstream sexual literature. But yet, it is a critically important aspect of great sex. Dominance is an extremely important sexual characteristic for a man because millions of years of evolution have programmed women to respond instinctually to dominant men. Consider this: tens of thousands of years ago, our human ancestors were tribes of hunters. There were two types of males in this society, the alpha males and the beta males. The alpha males were the dominant, aggressive males. They were the ones at the top of the tribal society, and they made the rules. The beta males were the smaller, weaker males. They were submissive to the alphas. Now consider that there were two types of females in this primitive society, those who liked alpha males, and those who liked beta males. Some liked how the betas were gentle and nurturing, and always provided for them. Others were turned on by the dominance and aggression of the alphas. When these females reproduced, they each had children with the genetic tendencies of their parents. The children of beta males turned out to be beta. The children of alpha males turned out to be alpha males themselves. What happened though, is that alpha males eventually beat the shit out of the beta males and raped all their women. The children of beta males did not survive, the children of alpha males did. Evolution slowly weeded out all those women who were attracted to anything but the most dominant of men. Today, there is only one type of female, those who like alpha males. The desire to be submissive to a dominant alpha male is one of the deepest and most important instincts of females of any species. If this instinct is so important, however, why do you hear nothing about it in mainstream sex literature? The answer is that our society has made the female desire to be submissive to a dominant male taboo. Every one of us has been deluged with social programming like, men want to have sex, women want to make love, and, a woman wants a man who respects her, since grade school. Women are socially conditioned to repress their desire to be dominated, and men are conditioned to repress their desire to dominate. However, in the absence of dominance there is no sexual satisfaction. While women will never speak about it and may not even be conscious of it themselves, they all deeply desire to be submissive to a powerful man. Instinct and desire over technique. As I said before, men frequently approach sex with a problem-solving mentality. They think that if they just learn the right moves, they will get a woman off. They buy endless sex books, hoping to mask their innate sexual deficiencies and insecurities with complex techniques learned from manuals. This doesn't work. What a woman wants is not a man who is an expert on the anatomy of the vagina, or someone who knows 53 different cunnilingus techniques. What a woman truly wants is a man who understands sex at a deep level, who is in touch with his animal desires and free of inhibiting social conditioning. A man who is conscious that both he and the woman are beings designed for sex, and who can help her get in touch with her own animal nature. It is overly simplistic to say that this means you should just be natural in bed. We are all deeply ingrained with social programming, which we cannot just forget on command. In addition to this, we all have insecurities which will prevent us from getting in touch with our true instincts. The process of overcoming these insecurities and breaking out of what a man should do in bed can be extremely difficult sometimes, but it is the only way to achieve sexual mastery. Learning complex techniques is never a good substitute. Although there are some techniques which are useful to know, I have found that achieving sexual mastery is not a matter of learning. Largely, it is a matter of unlearning. Sex is the ultimate method of attraction. As well as being the ultimate human experience, sex is the ultimate way to make a female attracted to you. Although it is possible to create attraction in women by social means, this seems like child's play compared to the attraction you can create with sex. We walk around every day with defense mechanisms up around us to protect our emotions. This is necessary, because we never know who might hurt us, so we have to keep somewhat aloof and distant. Social interactions can produce emotions of pleasure or displeasure, but we are careful to never let these emotions go too far. Sex is the most intensely emotional act we are capable of, and during sex it is impossible to shield our emotions. During and after sex, you can access the deepest of a woman's emotions directly and create incredibly strong bonds of attraction. If you choose, you can make these bonds of attraction unbreakable and permanent. This will ensure that the woman will be so deeply in love with you that she will literally do anything to support your cause. Many guys bent on pickup women will ask, what is the point of attracting a woman after I've already had sex with her? Lots of guys consider the first time you have sex with a woman the end of a seduction. I do not. I consider it the beginning. I find that the first time you have sex with a woman is invariably the worst. You are not yet comfortable with each other's bodies, and cannot yet get in touch with her instincts and desires. It's cool to hook up for just a one-night stand once in a while, but we all want to keep the highest quality women in our lives around. The way to do this is to give them what they really want, great sex. I find that these ongoing sexual relationships are invariably much more satisfying than a string of one-night stands. Also, if you succeed in having a one-night stand with a woman, she will file you in the back of her memory as one of her emotionless casual encounters. If you take a woman to deeper levels of attraction through great sex, she will never forget you. Cynics say that women will always cheat in a relationship, but this is not the case. It is true that if a woman is sexually unsatisfied, she is almost guaranteed to cheat. However, if you can provide her with better sex than anyone else, you have guaranteed her loyalty even if you are having sex with other girls yourself. There is no incentive for her to be unfaithful when nobody else can compare to you. You can even use the power of great sex to get women to support your lifestyle in non-sexual ways. For example, you can have your girlfriends travel to meet you, do you favors, and buy you expensive gifts. Your girlfriends will be happy to do this because they are in love with you. This is a total reversal of the normal male-female relationship, where the male must use gifts and favors in order to get sex with the women. If you wish to be living this kind of lifestyle with multiple women supporting you, the way to achieve it is through sexual mastery. These are the 4 principles of sexuality. They are what this book is based on, and what you should use as the basis of your sex life. Before I continue to go more in depth into what you should do to become great in bed, I'm going to tell you what you should not do. I've identified 4 archetypes of guys who are incompetent lovers, and I'm going to lay out their behavior in detail so that you know what to avoid. The 4 archetypes of sexual failure. Men who are bad in bed make an almost innumerable number of different mistakes while having sex. In order to learn what to avoid in bed, it is counterproductive to learn every technical mistake. This will lead to thinking too much in bed, which is in itself a huge mistake. Instead, learn the underlying beliefs and personality traits that are the root cause of these bad behaviors. Rather than trying to avoid the physical manifestations of these problems, you should attack your problems at their root, the mindsets which cause them. The following 4 archetypes are typical personality traits of men who share a common bad mindset. Examine these archetypes carefully, and be honest with yourself. Do you see any part of yourself in these archetypes? Recognize your bedroom sticking points now, so that you know what you need to improve. The Perpetual Lovemaker. The Perpetual Lovemaker is the #1 most popular bedroom archetype in the world right now. Typically, perpetual lovemakers are safe, provider-type guys. They're usually level-headed and intelligent, and don't take many risks. They're not the bad boys that women fantasize about, they're the guys that they settle down with. The perpetual lovemaker takes the messages about respect for women that he hears every day to heart. He believes that women are equal to him in every way. In order to distinguish himself from all the other jerks out there, he shows women that he respects them whenever they give him an opportunity to. He's happy to help a woman out by doing favors for her, taking her out on dates, etc. He has so much respect for women, that he's even happy to do this when the woman is not having sex with him. Unsurprisingly, this guy doesn't get laid very much. When he does get laid though, he carries his nice guy ways with him all the way to the bedroom. Because he respects women so deeply, in the bedroom he does not fuck a woman. He makes love to her. He treats her with the utmost respect and care, taking great pains to make sure that he does not make her uncomfortable at any point. If he wants to try something new in bed, he won't just do it, that would be too presumptuous. He'll ask permission, "Honey, would you please go down on me today?" For some reason though, his woman doesn't really want to do anything with him beyond plain vanilla missionary sex, and she doesn't even show too much interest in this. He consoles himself that he's found a good girl who doesn't do things like anal sex, deep throat, or even just regular blowjobs. Actually his girlfriend does these things all the time, just not with him. The Perpetual Lovemaker's girlfriend is deeply sexually frustrated. It is her nature as a woman to want to be dominated by an alpha male, and the Perpetual Lovemaker deprives her of this. She will retaliate with all sorts of bad behavior in relationships, arguing, withholding sex, neuroticism, and cheating. These behaviors, especially the cheating, are not her fault. In order to be psychologically healthy, a woman needs dominant sex. Because he lacks the dominance to satisfy her, the Perpetual Lovemaker compels his partner into these types of behaviors. The Emotionless Robot. Maybe you know a guy who picks up a lot of girls. You can see it as soon as you look at him. As soon as he rolls into a room, he just oozes coolness and high value. He doesn't react emotionally to anything a girl might throw at him. And this behavior is highly effective at getting girls into bed. In fact, I recommend being emotionally unreactive to a degree in order to pick up girls. The problem the Emotionless Robot has is that he carries his lack of emotion into the bedroom. He doesn't even like sex that much. His main motivation for picking up girls isn't sex, it's validation. It's the thrill of the hunt, and the ego boost he gets every time he realizes that he can actually have sex with an attractive woman. In other words, he doesn't actually enjoy having sex, he just enjoys the fact that he's having sex. And although he puts up a front of being cool and untouchable, the Emotionless Robot is actually afraid. He is afraid to open himself up emotionally to a woman. Because of this, sex with an emotionless robot has a platonic, detached, friend with benefits feel. He is completely emotionally invulnerable, and can feel neither pain nor passion. The Emotionless Robot's partner perceives this lack of passion, and it curtails her own emotions. Because emotion is so important for good sex, especially for women, the sex is poor. The monotonous plotter. The monotonous plotter will have sex with a girl a few times, and it'll be great. She'll come multiple times and start to develop strong emotions towards him. Because he's doing everything right in the bedroom, she soon wants a relationship with him. The problem is, after the initial, honeymoon, period of the relationship, the sex starts to go downhill. It's nothing sudden or dramatic, but after a while it just doesn't seem like the spark is there anymore. The girl loses interest, and breaks up with him. The monotonous plotter will then write this off as inevitable, because people inevitably get bored with having sex with each other for an extended period of time. But this isn't true. A guy who is creative and good in bed can keep a sexual relationship fresh and exciting for a lifetime. So then, what was the plotter's mistake? He was doing everything right in the beginning. What he didn't realize though, is that too much of a good thing is a bad thing. He didn't add any variety into the sexual relationship. Instead of an irresistible desire, sex became a scheduled obligation for the girl. She knew exactly what was going to happen, when it was going to happen, and how it was going to happen. This monotony killed the sexual attraction she felt for him. The bedroom technician. The bedroom technician knows everything about sex. After his first few sexual experiences were embarrassing and frustrating, he went on a quest to become a bedroom stud that women would sexually respond to. To this end, he's bought endless books on sexual technique. He's spent countless nights reading information on the internet, continually learning new sexual positions, new ways to hit the G-spot, new ways to do everything. He always craves more information about sex. No matter how much he's read, it's never enough, he always wants to know more, more, more. To the bedroom technician, sex is a matter of angles and inches, positions and correct stimulation. Everything he does in bed is technically perfect. He'll even log onto the internet and give advice, and guys will look up to him as an online sex guru. Despite all his knowledge, his girlfriend is frustrated with him. She wants a man to fuck her, not a scientist performing gynecology experiments. He doesn't understand that complex physical technique really doesn't make you any better in bed. It sounds impressive on an internet forum, but in real life it's ineffective. Ultimately, the problem of the bedroom technician is that he thinks too much and tries to figure out sex. Instead of doing this, he should use basic physical technique and concentrate his efforts on providing extraordinary psychological stimulation. What do all of these archetypes have in common? Each one of them represents someone who is deficient in one of the 4 elements of sexuality. More specifically, someone who is deficient in one of the 4 psychological elements of sexuality. These psychological elements are the foundation of good sex. The 4 elements of the Sex God Method. The 4 elements of the Sex God Method system are dominance, emotion, variety, immersion. The 4 elements together are referred to as Devi, with each element being represented by its first letter. The Devi model is the core of the Sex God Method. Read this chapter carefully, because it will totally change the way that you think about sex. Devi incorporates the 4 principles of sexuality, especially the first one, psychological over physical stimulation. The first element. Dominance. Dominance is the foundation of all male sexual power. As explained before, the desire to be dominated by an alpha male is one of the deepest desires of every woman. In the absence of dominance, there is no sexual excitement. Females crave dominance, it is your job as a man to give it to them. This is easy to know logically, it is much harder to incorporate it into your core unconscious belief system. To illustrate the importance of dominance, think of some types of men that women find attractive. Dangerous guys. Guys with power. Military guys. Athletes. Behind virtually every attractive man, you will see a core of dominance. Not only is dominance important, it is fundamental. This means that a base level of dominance is required to achieve success in the other 3 sexual elements. For this reason, dominance should be the first area of focus if you are a sexual novice. The way in which I discovered the importance of dominance was through one of my first girlfriends. I had slowly been getting more dominant and realizing that girls were turned on by dominant guys, but the real breakthrough came one day with her in bed. We hadn't seen each other for a while, and she was horny. That night we went out to a club together. She wore a skin-tight black dress, with black heels that screamed, "Fuck me." We spent the night drinking and dancing together, with her rubbing her ass harder and harder against my crotch as we danced deep into the night. When we got back to my apartment, I was so turned on I couldn't control myself. I kissed her roughly, and threw her down on the bed. To my surprise, she didn't protest, she loved it. I jumped on her, and started treating her more and more roughly. I slapped her ass, I fingered her roughly, I put my dick in her face and told her to suck it. At every point I expected her to tell me to stop, but every time I treated her more roughly, she got more turned on. She was talking dirty, and this girl was the master of talking dirty. At one point while I was fucking her from behind, she panted, "Fuck me Dan, make me your bitch, make me scream so that everyone knows that I'm your bitch." And I did. I railed the shit out of her doggy style for half an hour, and afterwards she told me it was the best sex she ever had. It was the best sex that I had ever had too. We both passed out afterwards, exhausted and sexually fulfilled. The funny thing was, the next morning she woke up and noticed that she was bleeding from her vagina. I'd fucked her so hard that I'd ruptured something internally inside her, and she was in serious pain. Obviously, I'd fucked her way too hard for it to be physically pleasurable by itself. What I did to her would have been incredibly painful had it not been during sex. Yet, because she had the psychological stimulation of being dominated, she couldn't even feel the pain at the time. It felt intensely pleasurable. Now this is an extreme case, but it did teach me a couple of important things. First, that dominance is a huge turn-on for women. They need it and crave it. This girl was unusually sexually uninhibited and could say it to me. However, most girls are too inhibited to ask for it or even know consciously that they want it, even though they do. Secondly, it taught me the importance of psychological over physical stimulation. Even though that night I had provided horrible physical stimulation to the point where it should have been painful, the psychological stimulation I provided was so good that it overrode the physical aspects. Emotion. I have been in many different sexual relationships. Some of these relationships were simple one-night stands, some were friends with benefits arrangements, some were exclusive relationships, and some were open relationships. One thing that